What if closing your first business gave you the education you needed to start a whole other business? That's what happened to today's guest, Karen Young, the founder and CEO of OUI the People, the beauty and fragrance brand that you can find at Sephora. So before launching OUI the People, Karen built and ultimately closed her first business, then took a corporate role at Estee Lauder where she spent 4 years learning the beauty industry from the inside. She later used those lessons to launch OUI the People with just $1,500, side hustling for 2 more years before eventually leaving her 6-figure corporate career. In this episode, Karen gets candid about the realities of growing a product-based business. She shares how she knew it was time to close her first company, how she turned a personal struggle with razor burn into a beauty brand, and why she initially ignored emails from Sephora, and how the traditional growth playbook caused her profitability to disappear for years. Let's get right into it. Welcome to the guest chair, Karen.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm excited to speak to you because I've seen your brand. I know of your brand, and it's always so amazing when you learn a brand is Black owned and, there's a Black woman visionary behind this. So I just need to dig in and learn a little bit more. You talk a lot about the origins of your brand and the fact that you were dealing with razor burn and ingrown hairs yourself. So can you kind of walk us through the moment that simple frustration turned into an actual business idea?
Yeah, for sure. So I want to preface and say that the brand has gone through quite a few pivots and evolution. But the start of it was definitely the razor and the grooming experience. And I think initially that's what a lot of people came to know us for. And I was at Estee Lauder at the time. I was an exec at Estee Lauder. And, I was really just looking at just like how massive the beauty category is and the dearth of products. I mean, I don't think I come from a very simple background when it comes to like beauty and body care and so on. Caribbean background is like use what you have.
Natural products from the earth. Yeah.
Yes. It's just like use what you have. I think my grandmother would probably be like, "Why do you need 5,000 creams?" But, I was like really blown away by all of the options that were available. It's just like, okay, at some point, what does the 10th mascara do? And I noticed that, there was not a lot in body care. And I have, this coming from a Caribbean background, my folks were more obsessed with smelling good and the caring for their body skin than the face. And, I was just like, that's so interesting that everyone's doing, I was at Estee Lauder when the evolution from makeup, from makeup and color cosmetics was happening and sort of transitioning into skincare for the face. And I was just like, well, what about, everything below that? And then I sat down and, I'd had a business before that. So I'd had that experience and I closed it to go over to Lauder. And I was just like, all right, if I'm really thinking, I always say like once an entrepreneur, always an entrepreneur. I am probably going to be on my deathbed being like, I had this idea for a product that would make this easier.
Other idea, right.
Exactly. And so, I was like, well, I'm not seeing anything in body, but I knew that it wasn't the right time to try and help people understand like, why they could use a different lotion because I knew that it was going to cost more, right?
Okay.
And at that point,
because of the competition or just
because you were going to be when you're early to something like body care, the difference between where body care is now and where it was a decade ago, you would have been competing with the Aveenos and so on of the world, right? So I'd be out there with like a $20 lotion or something, being like, hey, this is why you should buy this over $6. And you can't do that when you are the only one, not without a lot of funding behind you. But I thought for a second and I was just like, where's a real problem like that is so painful and so disruptive and so just not a wonderful experience that I could bring a sense of incredible design. I could bring a sense of skincare, what I was seeing happening within the beauty category to skincare, I could bring that evolution and also just like a real great storytelling. And at the time, it was in grooming. And, I looked around and I thought, well, I'm seeing all these companies crop up, right? And it's just
Yeah.
like, oh, yeah, we've got this $9 razor. No, 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 we added glitter to our $9 razor. Okay, no, we did like a better strawberry smelling shave gel with our $9 razor. And I was like, I can't compete there, but I have a certain set of skills. One is I have really great design taste and I'm really good at sourcing and, packaging and pulling together a brand. And also I have this experience in beauty. So I know how to build great beauty products. And I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to go completely right. I'm just going to go and I'm just going to launch a safety razor. And I sourced this razor from a small manufacturer out of Germany
Oh,
who
whoa, whoa, whoa,
literally
wait.
handworking. Yeah, sorry. I'm like really going deep
Wait,
there.
you're jumping too deep. But I want to go back to something you said. Once an entrepreneur, always an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You had another business. Was it, I believe, called Hammocks and High T, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So tell us about how you started or why you started and why you closed that business and
Yeah.
then went into corporate.
Yeah, for sure. Girl, that was like we needed to pay the rent, okay?
Yes, and many
Like,
are going through
listen,
that right now. Like, how did you
it
know to close this
happens.
business,
It
right?
happens. Yes, yes, yes. So when I graduated from school, I actually went right into fashion. I had an internship at Dolce and Gabbana and then had this like, straight out of college crisis where it was like, okay, I got offered this job, but it's real boring. Or I could go get paid a quarter of what that offer was and go follow my dreams. And when I was leaving, I'd had a great experience interning and I fell in love with fashion. I fell in love. I've always had a creative spirit. I've always had a maker spirit. And I fell in love with fashion because of the expression behind it, the creativity behind it, and also, the brands that I was working with and that I had the luck and pleasure of working with over the years really brought such impeccable attention to detail and
Hmm.
craftsmanship. And I was just like blown away.
Hmm.
And I ended up like losing that job right as the downturn of like the early 2000s was coming, like as we hit that, like, obviously luxury is one of the first places to get hit, and that's exactly what we saw happen in fashion. It's very hard to be buying a $600 shirt, right? So I ended up losing that job and I was just like, well, at the time I was looking around and I saw that everything was like it was the grayish period, right? I don't know if you
The
remember
what
that period,
period?
the
The
grayish
gray?
period. Yes, yes, yes. Where like, and I say this
What was
laughing now because
that?
I'm like literally in a gray phone booth, but like,
Right, right.
when like West Elm kind of like first came to the scene and
Okay.
everything was
Was
a shade
gray.
of gray or beige. Right. And then it was like you
I feel
brought it
like
together
that's
and I was
still
like,
around though. Like
grayish. It is
that.
so much still around.
Yeah.
But I will say I think the girlies are like pushing back now because the
Hmm.
last couple of years was like everything turned to grayish again. And I
Yeah,
think people were
yeah.
like, no, we need joy. Like there's joy
Yes.
in color. She says wearing black against a gray background. But I'm a New Yorker, so that's my
Right.
excuse.
Can't help ourselves. But yeah,
um,
I get what you're saying. And
yeah, and I wanted to bring a sense of joy, and I love the craftsmanship thing, the that element, and I was just like, well, I'm not seeing that in home, a typical entrepreneur thing that gets us in trouble all the time. I'm not seeing that in dot dot dot. So let me
you
go
must create it.
yeah, let me go fill
Yeah.
in the blank because clearly it's a need.
So it was a lifestyle and home goods brand?
Yes, yes, yes. And I'd actually like met a lot of wonderful interior designers, and
Mm.
I actually started working with them and making products or so on. But here's the thing: I had two skill sets that I think
Mhm.
I just have naturally, and I carry with me wherever I go, and that is always an attention to detail, an attention to design, an attention to craftsmanship
Yes.
and an ability to storytell.
Mhm.
And my role in fashion had actually been scaling those brands, scaling the likes of Gianfranco Ferré and Dolce and
Mm.
Gabbana and Roberto Cavalli
Mhm.
and so on into retail. I was the
Mm.
person working to convince Saks to bring this particular collection in and so on. And I was growing those businesses to millions. Like that was my job. That was my whole goal. And I was like, well, I wonder if I could do that for myself. And so I did. Um, and I did that within the home goods space. And then I hit my first, within like it was a beautiful crafted brand that I was distributing at small retailers here and there. And it was growing. And then, I hit my first big point where I was just like, I don't know if I have the capital to sustain this.
Mhm.
And I don't know if I could grow it anymore.
Mm.
A few years in, I was looking at I was printing yards of fabric and selling them by the yard so people could, make curtains and different things like that and really become a bigger, extensive part of the lifestyle world.
Mhm.
And that money just was not, I didn't
Wasn't
know
there?
anything. I did not know anything. I was just like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, where's the funding going to come from? Margins? Shoot.
Right. And I like how you said that too, because the entrepreneur mindset or the person who is willing to start something, it's usually like you hear, oh, identify a problem, identify a gap. So you're thinking, oh, I found one. Didn't even research, okay, is there a gap for a reason?
Mm-hmm.
Do
Yeah.
people want it, right? Other than
Yeah.
you, or do they want it at scale? Can you make it at scale,
At
or
scale is
can
the
you have
thing.
the price
Yeah.
point to compete with other lifestyle and home goods? You know what I mean? So there's so many
Yeah.
other questions that once you have the business knowledge that you realize you need to also ask in addition to, is there a gap?
Exactly. Is there any money in the gap, for example?
Hmm. Is there any money in the gap?
Right? There's some loose change fall in the gap. And how much money is in there? Are we talking millions, or is there $5 in the gap? So, so understanding all that, I think those were things that I had to take a break. Once I really realized that, I was just like, you just hit this tension point where you can't scale up without the capital.
You
Yeah.
had to
So,
go get some more capital. So as you were trying to look for a job, were you also struggling with mindset things at all? Like, I can't believe I'm going back. I thought had my own
ah,
business. Any of that come up?
goodness. Yeah. Yeah. Really, the first thing for me was, I kind of had to realize for myself that I had made a hobby that sort of, was burgeoning on a business, but I didn't know enough about margins. I didn't know
Hmm.
enough about making sure I was well priced. I didn't know enough about scaling, you
Yeah.
know. So I could make something that was really well marked up, had incredible margins and scale that to a certain point.
Hmm.
But once I was looking at really, it's funny that you use the term the gap, because I always
Yeah.
say there's the gap of what's needed and is it really needed and is there really a market opportunity here and are there
Yeah.
really people willing to pay for it? But there's also a gap that I think we encounter even more often in the entrepreneurial journey, which is the gap in knowledge. Right. And just okay, how do I make that leap in understanding? And I had no business sense whatsoever and just didn't quite know how to price myself, what to do. I was well positioned and I looked great, but I was in no position whatsoever to grow.
Yeah. And now, we're fortunate to have things like, no matter how you feel about it, say what you want about it, but like
I
before
know
you
where you're
go into
going.
an industry, you know where I'm going? Oh, let me see.
I know
Okay.
where you're going.
Before you go into an industry now, you can literally get a case study industry report done from you by AI, ask Claude and say, hey, what are the margins in this industry? Run me through some of the people who are doing well and how they've done it based on what knowledge you can find online. We didn't have that before, right? So before,
Girl.
when you have a great idea and this is a business that you always visualize doing, like a lot of people are like, I've always wanted to open my own restaurant. Make sure you do a full-on case study on the restaurant business, because you're going to see how hard it is, how slim the
Yes.
margins are, how unprofitable it can be, and then decide if you want to
Yeah.
turn that hobby into a business.
Yeah. And you don't have to learn the hard way. I mean, I feel
Yeah.
like One, I think a lot of us, and when I say us, I mean, I'm Black women, right? We are
Yeah.
looking at entrepreneurship because um, a lot of opportunities for us are like literally continuing to be cut, right? They're already
Yep.
down and they're continuing to be cut more.
Yeah.
And we don't have to go into it blind any longer. And I honestly think I'm with you. Like, yeah, I'm not using AI for everything. It has not replaced my creativity or anything. But even now, before I launch a new product, I'm assessing that market. I am understanding more what that gap is. And that was something prior to that, I would
Hmm.
probably would have had to, like I wouldn't even say I would have had to because I would not have had the means to do so. But the only opportunity to learn any of that information before would have been like $4,000 or something like that for a McKinsey report, right? Which would have been based on past actions, not even something that was happening in the now.
Did you choose to work at Estee or to apply to work there strategically because in the back of your mind you had an idea that you would do something in beauty next?
Here's the thing. I want to say that, like, first, I want to say, like, God is always looking out. Like,
Hmm.
seriously.
Yes.
And then I think the second thing is, you know, you asked earlier if I had had like mental struggles with, I felt like a failure. I felt
Yeah.
like an absolute failure. And even now, today, I can tell you that I have those kind of moments. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because I think that's humanity and that is absolutely normal. And this is the hardest thing I've ever done. But what I was putting out into the world that I didn't realize was I was putting my values out into the world and other people were seeing them. And it didn't even occur to me. We were in one magazine after the other. We were on the Today Show. We had multiple TV appearances, not me necessarily, the product. And I was always a big thing. Only in the last couple of years has it been more me. And I'm like, oh, hey, y'all. Poof.
Right, which is why I was like,
uh,
oh, wait.
yeah. But the product was always so well received everywhere you could find us. And we were in Henry Bendel's, we were in all of these like incredible like small boutiques around the country. We were, I had a product that was like really being picked up and loved and so on. So here's the catch. You had also asked like how I was kind of like I think in a sense like making it, like making
Mhm.
ends meet. I always had a little part-time gig, right? Because I was just
Mhm.
like, we got like, you know what I mean? Like when you're making something, especially when you're making something physically,
Yeah.
I'm not bringing my mind to the table. That'd be great, right? Like my margins are impeccable. Then I was making a product where I had to go. I had my sewing team, on 38th Street and in New York, and I was buying my linens and I was buying my ink and I was buying all the things to make this happen. And so all of those were upfront investments, and then you tie on your margin to that and you're like, okay, let me try to get it sold, right? And then you have to pay for it to be produced, and then you had to ship
Mhm.
for it to be, so you got to be real careful with those margins.
Yes.
So I always had a little part-time gig, and my when I was in school I was actually studying psychology.
Really?
And yeah, and I had picked up a part-time gig working for a forensic psychologist. Now there were two
Wow.
psychologists in this office.
Mhm.
I worked for one of them, and his partner would come in every once in a while. His partner was such a really kind guy, and him and I were always like shooting the shit and chatting and stuff. And he turned to me one day and he was just like, "Oh, my wife works at Estee Lauder." I was just like, "Oh, fun, cool, nice." I didn't really know that much about fragrance and beauty. And girl, one day I was coming out of the subway and it was literally the morning I had decided to close the business. And I was down. Like my tail was dragging all the way. I was in Manhattan. My tail was
Oh
dragging all the way back to
man.
Brooklyn. I was so down. I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And I walked out the subway. My head was down. And I'm walking I'm like, I can barely like see. And I'm like dragging myself into work. And I heard Karen, Karen. And I was just like, oh, I was like, hi, well, I don't know if he wants me to say his name, but I'm like, hi, Doc. And he's like, how are you doing? And I'm like, oh, I'm okay. Just heading into work. How are you?
Yeah.
And he's like, Karen, I have to ask you a question. He's like, ever since I told my wife about you, She has been following your work, and I swear to you, everywhere she turns, she sees your work somewhere. She was just in Bendel's the other day. I'm dating myself, but you know, Bendel's so
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was just in Bendel's the other day, and then she opened up InStyle magazine, and she saw your pillows in there, and she always,
Wow.
you know, and
Yeah.
he was like, she was wondering if you would ever consider working for her at Estee Lauder. And
What?
yo, goosebumps, right? Like,
Yeah.
to this day, I still think about it, and I'm like, damn, wow,
And
talk
what
about,
did she want you to do there? Because that's also like two different industries. So what
yeah.
connection did
So
she make?
she was in packaging and design at
Mm,
Lauder,
look
and
at
she was
that.
like, I want an entrepreneurial spirit to be in here, and she's
Mhm.
like, I also want a sense of design,
Yeah.
and I
Wow.
was like, yeah, say less,
Say less. Like,
say
who
less.
better to do it than like someone who is just naturally gifted at this? That is amazing. I just want to highlight some of the things you said here. Number one, working that part time while you're running a business. Like, never forget what drives the business is money, y'all. Money makes
Yes.
the world go round. You got to get it how you can legally to fund your
I've
business.
thought about some other ways, but I don't have the stomach for
Right. Bring it back, you know? Don't lose yourself. But also that mindset of you being down and even in your down moments, like your light is still shining when you produce and put something out into the world. Because I
Yeah.
imagine that had to be hard because closing a business means firing people, right?
Girl, I didn't have no people to fire. I was the one being
What about the
fired. I
sewing
got
team?
fired myself.
What
That's
about the
true. That's true.
sewing
I
team?
ended up
Yeah.
pausing with them, but that was like a contractor, so they had
Okay.
their own thing.
But knowing when to hold them, when to fold them, knowing when to walk away from a business is huge.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I think part of it, like when I saw him and he presented that opportunity, and I'm talking like weeks later, I had a job. Right.
Wow.
And I mean, like
Yep.
technically the job was mine. Like she offered
Uh-huh.
me the job on the strength of the integrity of what she had seen me do before.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
the precedence that I was setting for myself was like, I'm really good at what I do. I have an entrepreneurial spirit, and I bring a sense of craftsmanship and the attention to detail and all of that. But I think I took that job in part, and obviously I needed it, but I was also very excited about it. And I was just like, I can't. When I ran into him, it felt like the heavens had opened. You know, when you did,
Yes. Yes, because they had.
I was just like, thank you, thank you, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you. Um, but I needed to heal. I needed to heal. And I
Hmm.
spent 4 years at Lauder before that darn entrepreneurial spirit came knocking
Yes.
again.
Yeah.
But I needed to heal. I needed to
Yeah.
address putting something out into the world, working so hard for it, not knowing a lot. And what I felt was an abject failure. What I felt was a failure in front of all the people who were rooting me on, all the people who were like, oh, wow, you're so talented. All the friends and family members who were like, yeah, you got this. And myself going out there now, I look back at it and I'm like, that was child's play. Um, but just looking back on the full experience and how my mind saw that. And
Yes.
if
I
anyone's
understand.
listening and has been
Yeah.
in the experience of closing something down, like, are you kidding me? You put something out into the world. You know how hard that is? You know how many people
Yeah.
don't make it that far from
Right.
idea to fully something out into the world?
Hmm.
It's hard.
It is. And you just also reminded me that people have no idea what success actually is when it comes to business because people see you in these stores, they see you in the publications, and they think, Karen's so successful, her business so successful. And then when you talk about closing, they're like, what are you talking about? But as nice as it is and as much as it drives brand awareness, that is not what it takes to keep a business in business.
Yeah.
Money is what it takes to keep a business in business.
Yeah. I mean, I still get that. It's
Hmm.
it's it's kind of hilarious. And,
Yeah.
thankfully I've learned so much. I went to
Mhm.
hard knocks business school in
Yes, you
between here
did.
and
Yes,
there,
you did.
including working on my
Mhm.
next idea. I spent
Right.
2 years working on it in Estee Lauder. Oops.
Right. Side
But you know what I mean?
hustling.
Yeah, side
Yeah.
hustle. Side
Side
hustle.
hustling. And how did you approach your next business idea this time around, given all that education from the School of Hard Knocks
Yeah.
and also having an internal education from this
Yes.
major global beauty brand?
Yeah. So I think the internal education piece, what I did was really absorbed and observed what a major company like Estee Lauder did. Essentially,
Yeah.
a conglomerate, right? Like,
Yes.
yeah, they have their own brand, but I think, gosh, at the time they had like 19 brands or something like that under
Yeah.
them. I observed what they were putting out into the world, how they thought about products and expansions and so on, and how they were acquiring companies, right? Because
Yes.
obviously Estee Lauder was their own name, but they were moving into different categories. So the jump from an owned, individual brand into a conglomerate that they are required them understanding what categories were making shifts early on enough to make those acquisitions so that they could start gobbling up that market share and retain the size of the company that they are and the opportunity that they had. So I think the first one was the observation piece, and then the second one was the more like internal, which was, girl, now you got to understand what a margin is, right?
Mhm.
You need to understand
Once and for
like,
all.
whew, yes, and like lead with profitability,
Yes.
like you need to understand like if you
Hmm.
spend $1 on something and you sell it for five, like that $4 difference, where is every single one of those dollars going? How
Hmm.
are you truly thinking about that? What can you really afford
Yeah.
um, to do? And I think I saw something the other day, and it kind of reminds me of what you just said about brand awareness, right? But like visibility does not necessarily equal revenue. And
Hmm.
revenue is what keeps you alive.
Yeah.
Visibility is what makes everybody else think you're thriving. But revenue and profitability, my girl, profitability. Yeah, that was the probably the biggest lesson. And so
Hmm.
while I was there, obviously I kept my full-time job for a couple of years, and I just kept stacking up the cash from that,
Okay.
cycling it back into the business where it made
Got it.
sense, but really paying attention to profitability.
Given you studied psychology, were you also in tune with consumer psychology? Was that also informing how you go about this launch?
Yeah, I'm forever in tune with consumer psychology because I think at the end of the day, people buy, there's the needs hierarchy, right? But there's a certain point where like your needs are met. You know what I mean? Like you
Mm,
got a roof over your head, you got food on your table, you got water, you got
mhm.
air, you got some clothes on your back. Like your
Yeah.
needs are met. And the consumer industry at this point is not thriving off of needs very much any longer, right? Like even the
Yeah.
needs are now like, all right, we have this like small category of like your absolute needs, and then we're into the wants, right? We're into the lifestyle, something as simple as water. Like you got your tap water, your needs are
Nobody but
technically
nobody wants
covered.
that, right?
No, your needs are technically covered, right?
Yeah.
And then, someone was like, "Well, I'm going to bottle water for you."
Hmm. Yep.
Okay. Well, now I could take my water on the go. Could you have bought a cup with you?
Right.
Yes. All right. So within that, there's like so many, there's the needs, and now there's like, it's all just gotten so complex, and everybody has figured out how to take a need and turn it into a want. Can you take a regular ass cup on the road? Probably,
Yes.
but it's going to spill. You know what you need? You need yourself a Stanley cup. You need
Hmm.
yourself a
That's what you
Stanley cup
need. And you need the
with
little top to go on top of the straw.
Mm. Don't you? Wait, there's that? I didn't know. I've been walking around my
Oh
straw
yeah,
naked
you
in the
didn't know.
streets.
There's all these different tops. It's too much. And then
Oh
no,
my
but
gosh.
then Stanley opened up a whole other category of other kind of water bottles competing against each other, of course.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's amazing. But where I thought you were going to go is with the fact that people went to, oh, you need this boxed water, you need
But
this
that's what I was
glass
saying, because
water bottle, right?
it's amazing, because the needs now, if you take the need and you put it up and it's like you need water. I think the only thing we haven't figured out yet fully is air. We have not figured out
Yeah,
how to
right.
commoditize air. That's,
Yeah,
if anybody's listening, figure that out and instant
right.
millionaire. But it's
Hmm.
like you need the water. Okay, you got your tap water. You're good.
Hmm.
You're in America and you're lucky. You've got decent drinking tap water. And then it's like you need the cups. You need all of this. Okay, but the water, you can either stay home, you can drink your water. But if you go outside and get thirsty, what are you going to do? You need water. So I'm going to bottle it for you. Guess
Hmm.
what I'm going to do? I'm not going to give you any old backyard tap water. I'm going to give you Poland Spring. You know what I
Yes.
mean? And then when that's not enough, you know what? Let me figure out how to make it fizzy. It's just like,
It's
so,
really brilliant. Like now that you're like talking about it too, I'm like, man, what kind of water could I make? Right?
right, right. Some, well, I know they got sparkling with the, whatever. You could add fiber now to the
Yes.
water. Here's another
Protein
brilliant
water.
idea: protein water. Mm,
So the psychology of it is it's it's not only the wants, I feel that it's this sense of value, it's this sense of ego, and then sometimes the comfort too, right? Like, ooh, I
yeah,
feel so good when I just,
yeah.
now that I've purchased that, now that I've gone into Sephora, my day is better, you know?
Yeah. And so I think, we've got the needs, right?
Hmm.
The hierarchy of, consumer psychology. We've got our needs, we've got our wants, we've got our desires. And so the way I try to think about it, and I'll be honest with you, one of the things that I struggle with is I could never be the brand that's launching a protein water, because I'm like,
Yeah.
get out of here. That is absolutely ridiculous. No,
Right,
but
right. You'd be
somebody's going to do
skeptical
it.
of yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, somebody's going to do it and somebody's going
Hmm.
to make millions. I literally
Yeah.
said to a friend the other day, I was like, I need a little less integrity. That's what
Yes.
I need. I need a little less integrity. Um, because I'm consistently thinking about like how to really honestly better your
Hmm.
experience,
Yeah.
When we did the razors, I didn't I didn't say that it helped with razor burn because it
Hmm.
was a cute thing to say. I say
Hmm.
it because it actually did. I say it because I studied it. I say it
Yeah.
because we did dermatologist research and all of that and learned why it did, and it actively did. And then I was able to stand behind the price point.
And did you start with the razors? Was that the very first product?
Hmm.
So tell
Yeah.
us about the beginnings of We the People.
Yeah. So the beginnings of We the People actually started as We Shave.
Mhm.
Very interestingly. And I think one of the biggest desires within the entire, consumer psychological map or whatever is belonging, right? If you can solve belonging, you've gotten a very, you've gotten a good part of the way there. And belonging in that case was like, I think a lot of people felt weird. I felt weird because my skin is, melanated.
Yeah.
And I was just like, well, how come you don't have razor burn, And I was just like, well, well, so nobody's talking to me about razor burn, and they're selling me like these, like, 5, 6, 10 blade razors. And I'm like, I cannot take a Mack truck to my legs. Like, that just doesn't work for me. So let me talk to the folks who are in that same category as me, who belong to that like sensitive skin, melanated skin, that is experiencing this. And let me see if there's interest there.
Yeah.
And so this time, having learned from before, I didn't actually come out the gates like, hey, I made a razor. I actually spent 2 years selling a razor that I got out of Germany. What I did is I bought it and I had like two different handle sizes, and I tested to see what people preferred. I learned
Yeah.
that women preferred the longer handle because it felt like they
Okay.
could reach better and so on. And so I really just slowly took my time, one at a time, and then I was like, I'm going to make the shave products. And this is what took us into body care. So that was the second evolution. I said, I'm going to make the shave products that I want to use because a lot of the watery foams and so on, what's happening is there was like no buffer between your skin and the blade. So you got sensitive skin, you have reactive skin. That was the cause of the razor burn. And then you were in this fight for your life because the razor burn then produced hyperpigmentation. And now
Oh
there
my
was
God.
nothing on the market to deal with
Yeah.
hyperpigmentation. So I was like, this is misery.
Two questions here. One, were you ever nervous that the problem that you were trying to solve this time around would feel too niche? Even though, of course, there's lots of Black people, all of us, have
Yeah.
who have melanated skin. Most of us have
Yeah.
to deal with this at some point or another. But still, in the
Yeah.
grander scheme of the market and how it was skewed at the time, did you ever think like this is
Yeah.
not mass market enough?
Yeah. There was an element where I was like, I know I'm going to come across it either in terms of the use case for the product or the cost of it. But I think it was actually going to take me a while. It is actually not why I moved out of the razor business. What moved me out was the again, me and margins. Me out of it was ultimately the margins when I went
Yeah.
into retail. But that product made us a 7-figure business.
Really? Even with
Yeah.
the slimmer margins? Well, I
Yeah,
mean,
so
that
we
was revenue,
started
of course.
off
Yeah.
we started off direct to consumer for a long
Mm,
time, and that
hmm.
was me protecting my margins,
Yeah.
and like also building up so that I could say, okay, well now when it's time to expand, and
Yeah.
look at retail or do whatever, like I can do that when
Right.
it's time to build a team. I've got some money.
Right.
Um,
And when you were doing that, were you still at Estee when you were direct to consumer?
yes.
And
hmm
when you launched, how did you market it so that, you had such a strong revenue showing?
I got it out to a lot of editors. First and foremost. So, as we know, the way to market and all of the things have changed. My gosh, they've changed so much in and the consumer category has shifted so quickly. But at the time, people really still believed editors. This was before I'm dating myself. This is before influencers,
Yeah.
right? Like influencers was still fairly new. What
Hmm.
people believed were editors. And I said,
Yes.
well, let me go to the people that people
Yeah.
believe.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to believe me, right? Like, I don't think at that time people really wanted to hear that much from founders. And if I'm out, of course, I'm going to say the best things about my product. So, my hack is always find when you're growing and you need to scale, find if you don't have the audience, right? It's why like influencers are launching companies now and they're like doing millions overnight. Why? They've cultivated the audience for years. If I don't have the audience, I need to go find who has the audience. And at that time, editors had the audience.
Hmm.
And so I was able to find a really inexpensive PR firm who
Yeah.
loved what I was doing. And PR firms love when you got something new. You know what I mean? If
Yes.
you're coming out with like, but she was like, "Oh, girl, you got a fancy razor that's high priced. Let's do this,"
Hmm.
And the editors ate it up. And here's the thing that like really like turned the tides though, is they were actively having incredible experiences, not from because it was a cute product and so, but it actually worked. And so the PR that we got on the other end was literal love letters to the brand, love letters to the
Yes.
product. And you
I
can't
love
ask
it.
for more than that. So
Yeah.
that's how we scaled.
You did both things right. Like not only in the outreach, but also having a solid product with a promise that is real, not like made up or just for marketing. And you reminded me too of the editor phase of life when, you would open up an Essence and you just look for, I remember I used to fold over the pages like, oh, I want to try that.
Yes.
I want to try that.
Yes. You
And
would
because
like
that,
mark things.
yeah,
Yeah. Mark
that's where
things
you
off.
went.
Message your friends and like, you were
Circle
like,
and
oh,
the little
yeah.
rundown list.
Yeah.
And you also mentioned high price. So what was the price point when you first launched? Because that's also a very important factor
Yeah. So I think when I first launched, it was 75. And then like
for
a
the
year or two
racer.
later, I like crept it up to like 85. And then I think I held steady at like 85, 90 or whatever.
Premium. Well,
Yeah. Oh,
so how
super
did you
premium.
know to price your razor at that price point?
Because homegirls were out there buying La Mer.
So your target, you knew your target was someone who would buy a La Mer.
Mm-hmm. And
Got
not
it.
just who would buy a La Mer.
Hmm.
It was really across the board because that was like when I was at Estee, it was like my first intro to Sephora and stuff, even, right? Like, I was not a beauty person. I was just like, I'll never forget when my friends was like, "Oh, Karen, have you ever worn blush?" And I was just like, "Why I need to be blushing? I don't understand." Now I'm like, I love blush.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I looked at what beauty here's the thing about beauty. Beauty is um, one of the biggest rackets in the consumer category because it preys on when people feel badly about themselves. And that was actually the message that I came out with. I said, I didn't grow up like this. I didn't grow up making people feel bad about themselves. Okay. But I have this product that I needed and it
Mhm.
actually transforms your skin and it's
Mhm.
really expensive to make, but I
Yes.
think you're going to like it. And I knew that they were buying Tom Ford
Hmm.
mascara and Jo Malone fragrance, and they were buying La Mer cream, and they were buying Estee Lauder Renutriv. And I was just like, oh, the hardest thing I had to deal with in that was that shaving wasn't used to those prices. They were like, bitch, you
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah. Disposable. We're used
But
to the
beauty
CVS
was.
disposable, right?
Exactly. But beauty was. And so I
Hmm.
talked to the beauty girls. I talked to
Okay.
the ones who were buying the $45 mascara.
Yeah. I love it. And it's such an important distinction to note. And the second question I wanted to circle back to was why Germany? Why did you manufacture there now?
Yeah. I'm a nerd for information. I really am. And I take what I do very seriously. I really don't mess around about the integrity part of what I do. And I was like, a razor is no joke. Like
Yeah.
if it doesn't go well, it does not going to go well. And if it goes well, you're going to have a transformative experience. And so what I did is, this is before AI, because I can't even begin to think about how fast people could move now.
Mhm.
But I went on to Google and I was like looking up, and I had one reference point. I
Mhm.
actually remembered from when I was young, and this was part of what I had folded into the story as well. When I was young, my uncles used to shave with a safety razor. And I remember their skin was impeccable. I never saw razor bumps. I never saw ingrown hairs. I never saw anything. And my mind went like right back to that. And I was just like, hey, wait a minute. How come I'm struggling and they were fine? I wonder
Yeah.
if it had anything to do with the razor. And I was actually a big shopper of the art of shaving. So I would go into the art of shaving anytime I had a man in my life to buy something for, my uncle's birthday or something like that. I'm like, well, let's go into the art of shaving. Like there
Mhm.
was no other thing that I could. It was like the art of shaving, man. You know what I mean? It's like I don't know where else
Synonymous.
to shop for you. So
Yeah.
there we go. I don't even know if you shave, but there you go. And I would buy them these gifts, and I was just like, wow, it's really beautiful in here. It's really well done. It's thoughtful. You have this like craftsmanship of like a thing. You
Mm.
have a tool.
Yeah.
Not this like plastic flimsy thing that's growing mold in the corners. It's a
Mhm.
tool. And all of those things kind of like started coming together. And I said, well, has anyone ever thought about bringing this type of razor to women? And so that was the first thing. And then I said, well, where did this razor even originate from? Started doing my research, and it
Mhm.
was like, well, Germany has been doing it for a really long time. And then some in Japan, and
Mhm.
then India has started doing, but the best craftsmanship is Germany, UK, and Japan. UK, like England and so on. There was like three very specific um, components. And I was like, okay. So I picked up the phone and
Yep.
called a UK supplier, and I was like,
Mhm.
hi, I'm in the US and I'm thinking about bringing this type of shaving to women in the US. And didn't get anywhere. Didn't really,
Mm.
move much. And then I called Germany and they like picked up. And when I say this, I mean like actively, like I picked up the phone and called. Um, and they
What an
said,
art form, right?
ah,
Pick up the
right?
phone. Yeah.
Amazing. And they were like, we've actually always wondered why you women in the US are just torturing yourselves like that because we know how to use this. And then I was
Yeah.
talking to some friends as I started, and they were like, yeah, I remember my mom using that type of razor. And I was like, aha, so women did use it. Then
Mhm.
I dug a little bit more, and guess what? In the 40s, that's actually the razor that was marketed to women.
Look
That's
at
what they were
that.
using. Yeah. I was like, well, we
Interesting.
bringing the 40s back. We're
We
going to leave,
bringing it
some of
back.
the other
We
stuff
bringing it
there,
back.
but we're going to bring the 40s
Yeah.
back.
So, at what stage did you pivot away from side
Yeah.
hustling and working at Estee and go full time?
It took me 2 years.
What was it? Crossing the seven-figure mark? Like, what gave you the confidence to leave again?
Yeah, I was six figures at Lauder, and that was like, wow, that was huge. And then
Mhm.
I knew at that point, I was 2 years in, and I was
Yeah.
just like, I have a story that like really shifts people. And, it's like it can either move you from the product side because you're like, damn, this actually works. Or it could move you from the audacity side. Like, here was a Black woman who decided that she was going to start a wet shaving company.
Yes.
Wet shaving is like the terminology for using that type of razor. And I utilized the audacity part to win an award. At the time, we had this grant that was, oh my gosh, I think 100 or 150K or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was just like, well, I got audacity. And I was like, I got a good story.
Yeah.
And literally, this was like the night before the award submission closed. I jumped in, wrote the essay, showed up a couple days later to pitch on stage, and left with the grant.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and that obviously was just like, but I think I had already, if I remember correctly, I had already left Lauder at that point. So it was very quickly after that happened because I was just like, full like I need some capital. And I was just like, oh, they're giving money away. Sign me up.
Oh, if you're gonna give
um
it, I'm gonna take it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
But there was like I needed to be in a sane place before I
yeah.
did something like that. Like that as in leaving my full-time job. And I had crossed the six-figure mark and I was profitable.
Was it ever an issue? Because it sounds like you had a lot of publicity if you're getting your brand in front of editors. So was it ever an issue with your company knowing about this side hustle and feeling threatened by it or anything like that?
Not that I know of. I tend to like I was pretty quiet. I also, it took me a very long time. I think I was saying before I put my face in front of the brand. So ultimately, this was just like a product. But I think at one point I actually did tell my manager at the
Yeah.
time. I was just like, oh yeah, I got a little sidekick, doing
Yeah.
stuff, and she was like, I would expect nothing else from you. She's like, I knew
Good.
who I hired. You are who you are.
Good. So tell us now about the expansion from razors into body care. How did it come
Yeah.
about? What product
Yeah.
did you start with?
Yeah. So body care was always meant to be part of the razor business.
All
And
right.
what I started with was the products that I wanted to go along with shaving. And here's where like positioning comes in as well, right? So I positioned the shaving products as body care. They smelled amazing. They had skincare ingredients. They
Yes.
performed like body products. And I put all of the things and the ways and the ingredients and the formulation and the attention to detail, all that stuff that I learned at Lauder. I actually built all of our body care, all of our shaving products and body care with someone who came out of Lauder. She was an incredible formulator there, and she had she just knows what she's doing. And she was like, yeah, I believe in you, let's do this. And she helped me formulate everything. So I started with the shaving products, and I was like, I'm not going to treat shaving like shaving. I was like, I'm not going to make a foam, and if I did, it's going to be amazing. But I was like, what if we made it like body care, and it was like really good. And then Sephora came along Sephora came along when I launched. Sephora came along in 2019. And I was just like,
You
nope.
mean
No,
getting
no.
we into Sephora came
Yeah.
along?
They
Okay.
reached out to me and they said,
Oh,
we love what you're doing.
yeah.
And, would you be interested in coming into Sephora? This was
Mhm.
2019. So at that time, I had changed the name from We Shave to We the
Yeah.
People because I wanted to
Okay.
make sure we had room to scale and expand. And they came along in 2019. And the woman who brought me in, she's amazing. She's still at Sephora, but she's now she's based out of Singapore. And she just literally nurtured me the entire way. And she was like, every time she came to town for Sephora Market, she's like, come meet me for coffee. What are you up to? I'd like just had my kid at some point. 2019 was our first conversation. Actually, She reached out by email and I ignored
Oh
the email.
no. Did you think it
I
was
was
fake
like,
or
no, I was just like, oh, I was like, I'm
right,
not
right. I
ready.
can't do
I'm
this
not
right now.
ready.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, I don't know how to focus on this. And she just kept
Yeah.
like trying ways. She's like, does anybody know Karen Young? Is this person real? Is she real? Because I can't get in touch with her. She refuses to answer her email. And then, like, I think someone, who knew her was like, do you know this person at Sephora? Because she's like, she thinks you're a ghost. And she's emailed you multiple times and you refuse to answer. And I was just like, oh gosh, okay, finally. And then she said, come meet me. And I think I had like my first conversation maybe in 2020. Literally, I had my son in 2021. I was like, meeting her like in between breastfeeding and like doing the whole thing. And she was just like, take your time. And I was like, okay. And then I was going to her with all my little samples of body care. I said, I have a bigger vision for this company. And I said, it's not shaving. And I was like, I don't want to go into Sephora and you guys have me as shaving because here's the thing.
Mhm.
If you make a splash like that, I can't come back. I'm always going to be the shaving brand. And when I launch anything else, people are going to be
Yeah.
like, oh, the shaving brand did that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it was sort of alongside them that I was like, I'm changing the name just
Mhm.
so you know, this is what it's going to be. And this is the bigger thing. And I would take her my little tiny samples and she would try things. And she's just like, you're phenomenal at body care. She's like, you're ahead of the
Yes.
game, ahead of the times. And I've never seen anything like this before. She's like, the way that you were thinking about body care and
Yeah.
bringing skincare into it, these products work. And then one day she was like, and by the way, they smell really good. And I was like, oh, do they? And in 2023, we launched in Sephora. And when I launched in Sephora, I launched our first two scented products. I took one of our best sellers, which was our hydrating body gloss. I said, I had worked with her long enough, and I was just like, I'm going to take a chance. I'm going to put
Mhm.
fragrance in the body gloss, fingers
Mhm.
crossed. And it became our top seller. And then people were not even trying to pay attention to the other stuff that we were doing. And then last year, so secretly also in 2019, I went to France and I studied fragrance and I kind of like
Ah, look
kept
at
it tucked in my
you.
back
Yeah,
pocket.
yeah.
And I went, yeah, and then we launched, and I was just like, oh, I'm too scared. I'm too scared to launch fragrance. I was just like,
Yeah.
fragrance is a
Why were
crazy
you scared?
category.
Because of the skin sensitivity?
Not really. Well, actually, yes, that's a really good point. I in the time when I was working with the brand, when I was launching into body care and so on, the biggest and one of the fastest growing brands at that time was Drunk Elephant. And they had gone out and said this whole thing, basically saying everything else other than their product was poison.
Oh.
If it had a fragrance in it, if it had this long list of other ingredients, I was
Mhm.
just like, oh my gosh. And everybody was like using the
Yeah.
apps and things and the dirty and the EWG and so
Right,
on.
right.
We always made our products to always stellar. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
I never had to worry about that. But the fragrance part, I was like,
Yeah.
oh my God. And, I was like so nervous that the category was not
Mhm.
going to be into fragrance. And then
Mm.
we launched the fragrance product and it was mostly natural.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm actually seeing the results. Like at this point,
Yeah.
people were like, fragrance free what? Like we really love your your fragrance products. And so
Okay.
I was just like, okay, I feel like I got this. And then I had the fact that like I literally studied perfume in my back pocket,
Mm-hmm.
and I took that. And last year I said, you know what? I'm just going to try one. I'm just going to try one. Just throw it out there and see. And TikTok was like, "Oh, you're a fragrance fan. Done. End of
Got
story. You
it.
don't make
Got it.
anything else."
Wow. Tell us about the money piece, right? What's been your experience? Because a lot of people lose money in the first few years of business. It's a notoriously known thing. And then, of course, you've gone into retail, which is very expensive for a business. Have you reached profitability? Tell us how this journey has been financially.
Yeah. We have swung wildly back and forth with profitability. Started out super small, super lean. It was literally me, and I hired like one other person. She actually used to work with me at Estee Lauder, and I
Mhm.
brought her on to do like all of our packaging and visuals and everything. And, we were profitable then. And
Yeah.
then I was just like, okay, everybody's saying I need to grow, and I need to bring on team, and I need to attract investors, and I need to do all of these things. And then I started adding on team, and that profitability sunk for years, for years.
Mm.
um, and we did raise venture capital even, right? Because we were an attractive brand. We were fast growing. We were in the right category. We were in the right market. Beauty is an exceptional category. Beauty is one of the few categories with the right margins that are appealing to investors. And also, it's a category with like, it has a precedent for really lucrative acquisitions. And so, we were an attractive brand.
Mhm.
And, I like added on the team, and then I raised the capital, added on the team. And then I was like, all right, now what do we do? Like, how do we grow this thing? And I was just like, well, I've got the team. You're
Yeah.
supposed to be
And you got to
telling
run
me,
payroll twice
yes,
a month, right?
payroll hurts. My gosh. I was like, do you need health insurance? Are you sure? I'm kidding. Kidding. But yeah, and so there's the running payroll, and then like figuring out growth. And
Mhm.
there was a period also within the CPG category where
Yeah.
it was like, no, especially if you've raised capital, for just put growth, put profitability aside for a second. You can put that down
Okay.
for a minute, right?
Yeah.
Just go ahead and grow. And figuring out growth. Some of my lessons, I have so many lessons, but one of the things that I did wrong is I raised a capital, I plugged in the team, literally. So it's what I was supposed to do, right? That's what
Hmm.
all the investors said to do. I turned to all my friends who had brands that looked like they were growing on the outside, and they were like, yeah, no, this is how you do it. You put the team in place, and then the team brings in the money. It takes a while to do that. You don't run profitably for a long time. And um, and then you have to really get into this place of significant scale. And so I wasn't profitable for many years. And then last year I said, no, like we can't possibly do this any longer, because you have the team. So that's a cut. I was saying the it costs $1 and you sell it for 5. The team is a cut of the $4. The marketing, the cost of the product, and
Right.
like
Right.
just I was just like looking at just how extensive it is. And you start to feel like everybody else has it figured out. And that's one of the worst places to be, because then you turn to everyone else who seems like they have it figured out, and you say, well, what do I like? What are you doing?
Yeah.
And they say, oh, girl, I got this agency and this agency and this agency. All those agencies are 10K a pop. And you're like, that's how I'm going to do it. So you go and you take those same agencies and you plug it in. And you're like, well, I still must be missing something, because this is just more money going out the door. And the
Mhm.
agencies keep telling me that it's normal to be making 80 cents on every dollar that I've spent. So ultimately, my biggest lessons were put your head down, focus, hyper focus on profitability.
Yeah.
And as a result, we hit profitability this year.
Wow. That's real. So did you scale down the team? Did you
Oh,
scale down the
yes.
agency? Okay.
Yes, yes, everything. There were so many, I think people were just, it's running a business, there's no playbook. There's none. I think the hardest thing was when you are looking up and you feel like everybody else has it, and it's just like they're doing what's right for them, and they're
For
probably
them.
messing up along the way
Oh
too,
yeah.
right? But they're not telling you that,
Nope.
right? You ask someone, oh gosh, how you said you're making, like, you're a 10 to 15 million brand. Wow. I mean, how did you get there? Where, like, how can I, like, follow those steps to get there?
Yeah.
They didn't tell you that they're 10 to 50 million, they're not profitable. They forgot that part. Or let me take it on myself. I didn't ask. I didn't
That
ask.
too.
It
We
was a
have
dirty
to ask,
question.
right?
Yes, it
Yeah.
was a dirty question, and no one wanted
Right.
to say it. Growth is not the same thing as profitable
Hmm.
growth.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so I had to figure it out.
Right. And business, like you said, there's no playbook and it can be confusing, right? Because a lot of people, you do have to leverage debt for a while sometimes, depending on the business industry, what your long term goals are, what plays you're making. For some businesses, certain moves make sense. And you have to know what makes sense for your business. And when you're just like, you know what, some has to give. I don't like this. I don't like playing this particular game. I'm going to scale down a little bit because I don't want another unprofitable year. I can't do it. I just can't do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And you have to know when to make that call because, yes, a lot of people look so successful and they're not telling you. I think over the last few years, I really started to realize, and sometimes now I can look at what someone's posting and I can say it,
Mm,
and I know I'm like, they're probably in debt. Not in a
yeah.
hater way, but just
Yeah.
in me understanding what it takes to do what they're doing business wise. I
Yeah.
know they're going to be profitable again, but I have to remind myself, I know what's going on behind the scenes to get
Yeah.
them to what they're building. And I have to ask myself, do I want to make that particular play right now?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And also there are times, I think like profitability is not always, especially if you're self-funded, bootstrap, whatever, profitability is not an always on thing, right? Like
Right.
we have some months where I joke sometimes with my CFO and I'm like, we were rich at 901 and it's like 905. I'm broke as fuck. Like, what is
Right.
going on?
What just
Oh,
happened?
and bills just
What
got
happened?
paid, right? Like we
Yeah.
just had to
Yeah.
put a large order into production or
Hmm.
something, right? And so, one of the things that I learned last year was
Yeah.
thinking about the turnaround time on every dollar, right? And so, like, can I, if that dollar comes in, today, and I got to put a large order in, what is my return time for that
Mm.
money? Is it
Okay.
6 months? Is it 3 months? Is it eight
Right.
weeks? And really figuring out how to maneuver our dollars in terms of putting it on the right platform. Where to put behind marketing and so on behind it, where to lean on team. And one thing I want to say that I think happens when you're a sole founder is, one, not only are you like, well, where's the playbook? Because
Yeah.
you just somebody seems to have figured something out, but
Mhm.
it's also exhausting. It is
Mhm.
also emotionally exhausting. And
Yes.
sometimes you get
Yes.
up and you're like, what I wouldn't give for a team, what I
Yeah.
wouldn't give for someone else to figure out that problem. Because
Right.
you really are head cook and bottle washer. Something's on
Mhm.
fire, you're putting that out,
Yeah.
and you're doing so many things. And now everybody's like, well, I want to see the founder, in content. I want you to be a founder led brand. And you're like, just give me a second. I'm
I
just
just
gonna
had
forsake sleep.
right. I just thought of those visuals that people are doing this meme now on Instagram where it's like when you're having a crash out, but you're a founder, so you're like crying on the floor, but then you pick up the phone
Uh-huh.
because an investor calls.
Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah.
hey, yeah,
No, things are great. Things are great.
things are
I hit
good.
profitability yesterday. I'm broke
Yeah,
today, but I hit
yeah,
profitability yesterday.
yeah. And that, you raise an important point and reminder that when you decide to enter the lane of entrepreneurship and being a founder, especially a solo founder, you cannot expect to always be profitable on paper. You cannot expect to always just have things exactly how you're used to having them. Stability, in the green, few fires or ones you can easily put out very quickly is just not realistic. So you have to adapt and learn a new mindset of being able to be calmer in chaos. I won't say completely calm, but be
Yeah.
able to have calmer moments in the
Yeah.
middle of a lot of fluctuation, right? Have you
Yeah.
have you had that experience?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I would I want to say in the last year,
Yeah.
the last couple of years, I definitely have been feeling like I'm not as calm
Hmm.
as I used to be.
Mm.
Um, and the reality is, I think that's in part because, we are in a crisis.
Hmm.
This is crazy
Yeah.
right
Yeah,
now.
we're
The
being also hit with things we've never seen before. So,
Never. And consuming it and taking it
yeah.
in on multiple platforms. We are taking in so much more information than we ever were.
Yeah.
And in between um, uh, delivery of
Hmm.
one crisis after another is also
Yeah.
someone like, and buy this now. You
Yeah.
know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Yeah. Yeah.
sometimes
Yeah.
you have to
Yeah.
be the person that's like, and buy this now. I promise it's going to really help, but it's not going to do anything for the fact that the world is on fire. Um,
Oh.
yeah. And then,
Yeah.
coming out of 2020 into 2021,
Hmm.
just the downshift and the pullback that
Yeah.
happened from,
Yeah.
the
Spending.
focus that was on, spending and black owned brands and all of that.
Hmm.
And then it's like we went through the pandemic after that. And
Hmm.
I was just like, I really wish a pause for everyone, including myself, because
Yeah.
it does not feel in any way as if my body has relaxed
Yeah.
in the last few years. And I used
It
to
was,
pride myself on being a very calm person. I used to
mhm.
meditate all the time. Now I just pray.
Yeah.
I say my prayers in the morning. I say my prayers with my son at night. And I'm just like, ooh, that's all we got today. Just
Yes.
like,
It's
I'm gonna
because
give it
it's
up.
whiplash. Oh, my bad. Because it's whiplash. It's
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
what just happened? When is my cortisol level? When are they going to go down?
Yeah. No, me
Like,
and
y'all,
that magnesium glycinate tight.
right. I just, that's why I feel you, because I have so prioritized just focusing on my nervous system. And
Yeah.
that's all right. Because
Yeah.
I too I had my son in 2020, my daughter in 2023, right?
Yeah.
So we're also doing this whole new thing of parenting, sometimes, sleep deprived. So all of that has shaken us up in a way that I don't think has been studied enough. I don't think
Yeah.
our hormones will ever return to what they were, because we
Yes.
just can't give our bodies and minds the rest that it would
Yes.
require to go back to that state. So we've got to learn to exist and just try to give ourselves as much nervous system regulation as we can. You also got to give yourself grace, y'all. Like sometimes
Yeah.
when I find myself like really just being hard on myself, I have to just snap out of it and say, do you realize what you are living and have lived through? Like, do you
Yeah.
realize what is going on that is informing all these
Yeah.
circumstances right now,
Yeah, it's not
So,
normal. The
yeah,
girls are out here saying touch grass. They're not kidding.
they're
Touch
not kidding.
grass. We need
That's
it.
one of my
Touch grass.
favorite
Go lay.
sayings. Go
Go lay
touch
down.
grass.
Touch grass.
Oh my
Hmm.
God. We're going to jump into a quick lightning round. All right. You just answer the very first thing that comes to mind. You ready?
Yes.
All right. So, number one, what is a resource that has helped you with building We the People that you can share with the Side Hustle Pro audience?
Connecting with other founders, truly. So I find founder groups who, have like Slack communities and so on, reaching out to founders. This is a
Okay.
very lonely journey, especially if you are a
Yes.
sole founder and you don't have to take the advice. Sometimes you just need to be able to sit in front of someone over a coffee and be like, is
Mhm.
this crazy? This is crazy.
Do you
Got
go
it.
through this? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been better than any book.
Speaking of that, number two, who is a non celebrity Black woman, fellow entrepreneur that you admire, would want to switch places with to potentially learn about her path?
Hmm. Well, she's top of mind because I literally just got off the phone with her. But Olamide, the founder of Topicals, and I'm very grateful
Oh,
because
nice.
actually get to pick her brain. But
Yes.
my gosh, she is a creative powerhouse, and I yeah, and she's younger than me, and I
Yeah.
think I want people to like recognize that like your mentor or someone that you look up to and admire and want to learn from doesn't necessarily have to be older than
Yes.
you. So top of mind because I just had the luck of chatting with her. But
Nice. I love that you guys talk. Okay. Number three, what's a non-negotiable part of your day these days?
at 6 o'clock, I put my phone down and hang out with my son. And yeah, for like a couple hours before bedtime, it's just an absolute just joy. It's hard as hell to get that child into bed.
Listen,
I've never.
tell me about it. Tell me about it. By the end of bedtime, like I look like that meme with the Barbie doll head, just like hair, just like every which way. Oh, number
Yeah.
four. What is a personal trait that has helped you significantly in business?
Oh my gosh. One that my grandmother recognized in me a long time ago. And she literally, I think I was like 5 or 6 or whatever. And she's like, "You're really tenacious." And I was just like, "Oh, thank you. What does that mean?" She taught me the meaning of it. Being a Caribbean grandma, she also like taught me how to spell it. And she had me like recite the meaning of it and everything. And she was just like, actually, no, I apologize. Not tenacity. That's natural too, but it's related. Persevere.
Ah,
Yes, and
yes.
she was just like, "You are going to need to understand how to use that to your benefit as you
Mm,
grow up, and this is what
yeah.
it means."
Love it. And then finally, what is your parting advice for fellow women entrepreneurs who are side hustling but worried about losing that steady paycheck?
Yeah. I talk to a lot of women who, reach out for advice and so on. And I think they don't even necessarily know if the thing that they're doing on the side is something that is going to work. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And like,
Yeah.
I think, of course, we all have some level of uncertainty and so on.
Mm,
But like, I think like really examine it, like really turn it over, lob it at other people, build a trusted circle around you
yeah.
of folks. Go and try and find people that you can start to learn from,
Mhm.
other entrepreneurs and so on who are doing it, because I don't think you realize how, until you're in it, how incredibly taxing it can be and incredibly how draining it can be, especially once it goes from your side hustle to your full-time thing. It can be real cute as your side hustle when somebody's covering your health insurance and you're getting paid every 2 weeks and you can still
Mhm.
afford to go on vacations and you can still buy some nice clothes and so on. But going from a side hustle to a real thing, I think we can really hate what we're doing very quickly if we don't truly turn it over and break it apart. And now you can do that with the help of AI. So
Yes.
use the
Yes.
tools.
Use the tools. That is the perfect note to end on. So, Karen, where can people connect with you and We the People after this episode?
Oh yeah, you can find me on We the People, Instagram. I am the talking head right now on TikTok, so you can find me there as well. Oh, sorry, and wethepeople.com. I always forget to actually say my business, but we sell fine
Right.
fragrance and body care on wethepeople.com.
And we will tag them all in the
Thank
show
you.
notes. So, thank you guys. I'll talk to you next week. Hey guys, thanks for listening to Side Hustle Pro. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts. It helps other side hustlers just like you to find the show. And if you want to hear more from me, you can follow me on Instagram at Side Hustle Pro. Plus, sign up for my 6-bullet Saturday newsletter at sidehustlepro.co/newsletter. When you sign up, you will receive weekly nuggets from me, including what I'm up to, personal lessons, and my business tip of the week. Again, that's sidehustlepro.co/newsletter to sign up. Talk to you soon.